everyone, welcome back to J.P.s World of Wrestling. I am your man J.P. and welcome back once again. We've been doing a series all about WWF Summerslam. That's because it's summertime, although summer's almost over. It's coming to a close. The kids are back to school now, although, to be honest, that's something I don't really understand, because when I was a kid, we got out of school in June and we went back in September. But now the kids are going back in August, so I don't know. I'm glad I'm not a kid nowadays. Anyway, not that the kids nowadays are bad or anything. I'm just saying I like my childhood. Okay, so because summer is coming to a close, I'm going to try to lump these SummerSlam videos back to back. I'm going to talk about two in one video. So today, we're talking about SummerSlam 1994 and 1995. Now, 1994 and 95 were both definitely a transitional period for the WWF, because Hulk Hogan's gone and the WWF is going with Bret. But in order to make Bret look strong, he has to beat a significant opponent. So at this time, Yokozuna was the champion, but then at WrestleMania 10, Bret Hart defeated Yokozuna to win the title. So at SummerSlam 1994, which is in this box set here, Bret Hart is the champion, but his number one rival at the time is his brother, Owen Hart. Now, in my opinion, I think Owen Hart, I don't know, I kind of always enjoyed Owen just a little bit better than Bret. Not that I have anything against Bret, but Owen, there was just something special about Owen. There's something special about his demeanor, about the way he wrestled, and I was always just a big fan. Anyway, so let's take a look at this 1994 card. And like I said, this is kind of when they started having a lot of really heavy gimmicks and cartoon characters and stuff. So, okay, yeah. So the $1 Million Corporation is here. And Bam Bam Bigelow and the IRS team up to face the Head Shrinkers. Now, the Head Shrinkers was a pretty good Samoan tag team. Rikishi actually was one half of the Head Shrinkers, and 3 of his sons are now in the WWE. And by the way, if you hear something in the background, that's because it's storming outside. There's thunder and lightning happening out there. It's raining. Anyway, just so you know. But the Head Shrinkers were pretty good. I liked the Head Shrinkers. For a while, they had him managed by Captain Lou Albano. But then, but Alpha was always kind of their manager. And so, he was one of the original Wild Samoans. And so I think they went with Alpha just because it's kind of a family thing. The Samoan family of wrestlers has always been like a big thing in WWE or WWF, and so there you have it. And then Bam Bam Bigelow and IRS, those were 2 guys in the $1 Million Corporation. So then there was a women's title match. So Alundra Blaze takes. I gotta look at this again because it's a Japanese wrestler. Bull Nakano. Yeah, okay, I know. Bull Nakano was actually just inducted into the Hall of Fame. And, I think that was a good match. I believe Bull Nakano won, but I wasn't really paying attention to women's wrestling at the time. I'm actually paying more attention to women's wrestling nowadays, because now the women wrestlers actually can wrestle. And they're actually really good, and actually really good at telling stories now, and it's not just slap and punch and kick and eye rake and stuff, which, that's what women's wrestling was. But actually, Alundra Blaze, I think she was ahead of her time, because she actually did wrestling moves. And she was known as Medusa everywhere else. Anyway, Intercontinental title match, Razor Ramon versus Diesel. So I believe Razor Ramon won that match. But it's been a while since I've seen. A lot of guys watch the event and then they do a video on it. I don't do that because I'm a little unconventional, if you know what I mean. I don't know what I mean. And And oh yeah, and here's a storyline that they did: Tatanka versus Lex Luger. So they did this thing where Tatanka kept, you know, was telling everybody, "Oh, I saw Lex Luger in the back with $1 Million Man. You know, he sold out to the $1 Million Man. I'm gonna expose him. Yeah, we'll all see that he sold out to the $1 Million Man." Meanwhile, Lex Luger saying, "No, I didn't sell out to the $1 Million Man. He approached me. I didn't talk to him or what." So then, as it turns out, Tatanka was the one that sold out to the $1 Million Man, because Tatanka turned heel and he joined the $1 Million Corporation, and that's where this match comes in, where Tatanka, I believe, defeated Lex Luger in this match. And then we had Jeff Jarrett versus Mabel. I'm sorry, I don't care about that match. So then the next two matches. Okay, so like I said, it was Bret Hart versus Owen Hart in a steel cage match, WWF title. Now the cage match was something that was unique because most cage matches you saw had guys like slamming each other's faces against the steel cage, and one of them was like, bust open, and there was a lot of blood. Not in this cage match. This cage match was mostly both Bret and Owen kept trying to escape the cage, and the other one catching him, pulling him down, and they would actually wrestle. But there wasn't a lot of slamming against the cage in this one. But Bret Hart initially won, obviously because Owen Hart never won the title. Well, not the big title. And so the last match on the card was interesting because it was The Undertaker versus The Undertaker. I know it sounds weird, but a lot of you remember this story where The Undertaker was gone for a while, and then the $1 Million Man came out and said, "I'm going to bring back The Undertaker because everybody's got a price." So he brings out The Undertaker, and then his Undertaker starts wrestling matches as The Undertaker. So then Paul Bearer comes out like, "Oh no, you're not the real Undertaker. My Undertaker is coming back. Oh yes." Sorry, that's my Paul Bearer impersonation. Anyway. So then SummerSlam comes, and there are two Undertakers. DiBiase's Undertaker comes out. Turns out to be the guy that played Change from the Disciples of Apocalypse. Anyway, so yeah, Undertaker, DiBiase's Undertaker comes out, but then the real Undertaker, Paul Bearer's Undertaker, comes out, and they have this match. But I have to back up first because they did something kind of fun for this event. They brought in Leslie Nielsen, comedic actor that was in all the Naked Gun movies, and he was in the Police Squad TV series, and he was in Spy Hard and all these really funny movies. So they did this thing where him and his co-star from the Naked Gun series, George Kennedy, they were backstage. They were trying to solve the case of where's the Undertaker, solve the missing case of the Undertaker, and they kept doing all these little sight gags and stuff, and it was kind of funny, kind of amusing. But in the end, they said, "Case closed," and Leslie Nielsen looks around like, yeah, good for me, I solved it. So anyway, that was just kind of fun side note. So then the match. Both Undertakers are in the ring, and if you listen to the match itself, the audience is actually in silence. And I don't know whether it's just because they don't care about the match, or maybe it's because they're trying to think, "Oh wow, which one is the real Undertaker?" I don't know. So anyway, Paul Bearer's Undertaker, the real Undertaker, ended up winning the match. And we never see DiBiase's Undertaker ever again until he comes back in the DOA as Chains. Okay, that was WrestleMania, or not WrestleMania, SummerSlam 1994. I already did WrestleMania. Okay, so 1995, again, transitional period for the WWF. It was just, a lot of gimmicks. I did a whole series about, well, not really a whole series, but I did a video about 1995 WWF. And it was really heavily gimmicked. And this is kind of the reason why I think that Bret Hart was not as a successful champion as, say, like Hulk Hogan or even a Stone Cold Steve Austin, because Bret Hart, he didn't really have these big epic opponents to work with. I mean, he had his brother Owen, but you can only have so many of those matches. He had Razor Ramon, I guess, but he's not going to beat Razor. There was a lack of guys that could legitimately, realistically beat Bret. So they put him in with like Hakushi, and they put him in with a pirate. I think they did put him in with Diesel, and they did put him in with the Undertaker, and those were pretty good. But Brett just didn't have those big epic opponents to work with, So anyway, so 1995 SummerSlam. So 1, 2, 3 Kid versus Hakushi. Martial arts fest there. Everybody, I don't know if you guys remember Hakushi, but he was like this Japanese wrestler, but he had all this Japanese tattoo, like Japanese writing tattooed all over his body and all over his back. And he wore these white pants, and he was kind of a martial arts, high-flying type of guy. Of course, the 1, 2, 3 Kid, Sean Waltman, a.k.a. X-Pac, 6, whatever. Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Bob Holly, Jacob Eli Blue versus the Smoking Guns, I guess. Barry Horowitz versus Skip. Now, this was actually kind of a fun storyline, because Barry Horowitz, who was, for lack of a better term, a jobber, he had never won a match in the WWF, ever. And so, Skip, who was Chris Candido from ECW, came up with this idea one night. It's like, hey, what if he beat me? And so, they did it. They had Barry Horowitz beat Skip. So therefore, Barry Horowitz was then a legit, member of the roster. So they put him in the Royal Rumble, and they put him in now on a pay-per-view match against Skip. And so I can't remember if Skip ever actually won, but anyway, it was kind of a fun little thing. And then our Wonder Boys again defended the women's championship, but this time I think Bertha Faye actually won the title. Casket match. Undertaker versus Kama. Kama was part of the $1 Million Corporation. And so in this particular storyline, Kama actually stole the Undertaker's urn, melted it down, and made a necklace. And so the Undertaker, obviously wasn't happy about that, challenged Kama, who was also known as Papa Shango, but then he came back as Kama, the Supreme Fighting Machine. And that was due to the fact that Charles Wright, the guy that portrayed him, actually really was involved with MMA and all these kind of things. So they turned him into a character, so he joined the $1 Million Corporation, easier for me to say. And him and Undertaker had a casket match at SummerSlam. And Undertaker won the match, got the gold necklace or the urn back, and all's right in the world. Okay, so, yeah, and here's another example of Bret Hart not having big epic opponents. This one is Bret Hart versus Isaac Yankem, DDS, an evil dentist. I feel sorry for Bret. Now, Bret Hart these days is kind of a bitter guy. He's has not a lot of good things to say about a lot of people, and you can't really blame him for all that he's gone through in the business, but I feel bad for Bret during this time. He didn't have those great big epic storylines like Hogan did with Andre the Giant and Macho Man Randy Savage and King Kong Bundy. He just didn't have those stories. I mean, he had one with Jerry Lawler, and that was a pretty good story, but how many times can he wrestle Jerry Lawler over and over again? It's just, yeah. So then there was the second of 2 ladder matches between Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon for the IC title. Razor Ramon won the first one at WrestleMania 10. So then, during that time, Shawn Michaels became more and more popular, and he became more of a babyface. So they had another match, but this time Shawn Michaels was victorious, and this time Shawn Michaels won back the Intercontinental title from Razor Ramon. And both members of the Clique, they were both actually really good friends. And so yeah. And then the main event, so this is one of the downfalls of the WWF during this time, because the main event was Mabel versus Diesel for the title. Now, I got no problem with Diesel. And I really didn't have a major problem with Mabel, but I didn't see Mabel as a main eventer. Diesel, well, he was a big guy. I'm not really sure he was my favorite WWF champion of all time. I mean, he was a big guy, and I certainly think that he was a realistic opponent for Brett. But yeah, this match just kind of didn't land with me. It was kind of long, and just for one thing, Mabel almost hurt Diesel in this match. He actually did hurt him. Diesel was laying flat on his stomach, and Mabel sat down on his back with all of his weight, and you can audibly hear Diesel getting mad at Mabel because Mabel, I guess he just wasn't careful with guys in the ring. I don't know. I was never a wrestler. I didn't have to be in the ring with him, but Mabel's no longer with us. He passed away a few years ago. But yeah, that match was just, I think probably my favorite match on the card was probably Undertaker versus Kama. To me, that was probably the best match. Because I actually didn't have any problem with Kama. I thought it was kind of a cool character. I thought Papa Shango was kind of a cool character. Kind of like an evil, voodoo villain type of thing. But, Anyway, that is going to do it for SummerSlam 94 and 95. So thank you once again for tuning in. And I just recorded another show of wrestling figure matches. It was almost like the epicness of this one is almost like a pay-per-view. It's almost like a Clash of the Champions or something. So tune in for that because that's going to be pretty good. Even though I haven't watched the footage yet, I thought it was pretty good. Anyway, so if you're new, feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.